Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to announce that we will be working on a 35th installment in the CinemaTalk franchise. It's a really big deal for us, and I think everybody's going to be super excited about what's in store. What do you guys think?
I want this franchise to end. The CinemaTalk franchise, okay, 17 was the peak. I think we can all agree. 17 was...
that was good, yes. I enjoyed that. Great character arc, especially. Considering how much time they put into the special effects, I was very surprised that 18 had such a low budget.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a spark of hope with 22 not that long ago, but man, they just squandered that with 23 and 24. Such a letdown.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they haven't done a spin-off of Larry's endeavors, you know?
Yeah, man, once they got Nicolas Cage to guest star in 23, it became really tired. I was done.
Thinking that Nicolas Cage as Sean would have worked a little bit better, but I mean,
Oh my god, that's wonderful! I want Nicolas Cage to play me in the upcoming biopic.
Exactly. Anyway, welcome to Cinema Talk, and if you didn't guess, today we're talking about the proper time to end a franchise in the wake of a certain announcement that's gotten everybody really, really confused. With that in mind, guys, my name is Max.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Larry.
Let's go to the lobby for the 35th time. 35. We need to get some exercise, work off all those counts.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So right now in the movie culture world, there's been a bit of a buzz recently about a certain announcement that's gotten everybody kind of like thrown off, like pretty like legitimately thrown off. And I think it's good enough like grounds to like seriously like discuss what this announcement is all about. And I keep being vague about this announcement because I don't actually know why I'm being vague. But the main purpose is Toy Story 4 was announced this past Thursday?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And so, if you guys didn't notice, the internet was not pleased.
I was surprised. Maybe okay. I'm one of the people that didn't. I wasn't a huge fan of the Toy Story 3 ending. So maybe it's just me that didn't like really. I mean, it's surprising. I don't know if they really should do it, but I guess I'm kind of neutral towards the whole ordeal. I mean, Max, you tweeted about it, and I agree. Like, I mean, I'm sure Toy Story 4 could be really good. I mean, Toy Story movies are all really good, but maybe that effort could be better used, like, on a new movie, a new kind of movie.
Yeah. Like, okay, what I found funny is if you go back and watch the Inside Out trailer, that's basically all the different emotions that came to the Toy Story 4 announcement, with joy being the smallest.
That's actually very true. As far as how I saw the Toy Story 4 announcement, I was kind of on... I mean, I was a fan of the Toy Story 3 ending. I thought they ended it very nicely.
I agree.
But I was still kind of on Sean's side. I think every Toy Story is a work of art. Honestly, they're great films.
I'm on the same boat.
But yet, I still don't understand where they're gonna go because Toy Story 3 was it tied such a nice ribbon, on the whole package.
Well,
so
okay,
I don't get it.
My theory, personally, is that this isn't a fourth Toy Story. Really, we're gonna get like a new trilogy. Like we finish up Andy's trilogy, right? That was Andy. Andy's done. Now, what's her name? I know her name. The new owner of the toys.
Is her name Bonnie?
Bonnie. Like, okay, if you can think of some great theme to explore or a great story, great. Give us a trilogy or so with Bonnie. As long as it's something new that we couldn't get from the Andy, stuff.
Okay, so what you're saying is we just finished Phase 1. We're going in the Andy Initiative, and we're going into Phase 2.
Did you guys see that post, that picture?
No.
Somebody put it up like basically Phase 3 of Pixar movies, and it's like Toy Story Infinity Wars Part 1. Like, it's really funny. Like Buzz Lightyear Civil War or something like that. It was good.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. That was pretty much Toy Story 1, though. It was pretty much Woody versus Buzz.
So. It was Civil War, pretty much.
I don't have anything else to say about Toy Story 4. I mean, that obviously isn't the point of the podcast. Does anyone else have anything to say? Or
there were maybe I think a year or so ago, DreamWorks announced this huge plan that I think Kung Fu Panda was getting 6 movies, and How to Train Your Dragon was getting 4 more movies. And so I think, I know, it was terrible.
Well, now the directors confirmed that How to Train Your Dragon is just a trilogy.
Right,
So,
they're which
good.
is good. But like, I feel that in a way, Pixar is sort of succumbing to the idea of the franchise age, which we're going with right now. They're bringing back The Incredibles, which has been asked for countless times. We're seeing another Toy Story, and who knows, maybe the request of like another Monsters Inc., which has been requested for a while, may come back. I feel they're starting to. They see that their newer franchises are like, So, despite the fact that Big Hero 6 is apparently doing great,
Not Pixar.
But that's not Pixar.
Damn it.
God damn it, Larry.
Damn it!
My God! You know who? The critic for the New York Times who reviewed that movie also got that wrong. What the fuck? There was no indication that Pixar ever had any hand in that movie.
Moving on from that, I just think that they're succumbing to the franchise age and they're starting to bring back their older franchises.
Yeah, but also at the same time, they've already done 3 Toy Stories. They've already done 2 Monsters University. It's like, this isn't that new. They already have 2 Cars. Brave was a sequel to, like, every movie ever.
Well, I don't know about that. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how this happens.
I don't think this is a brand new phenomenon. But I do think that it's just a follow-up. It's a natural progression. It's like, of course, Toy Story 1, 2, 3 did so amazingly well. Why not 4? Like, maybe we're giving too much credit. Maybe we are giving Pixar too much credit. They are a business. And maybe they realize, hey, Toy Story 4 is going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, the thing is, John Lasseter is the director. That's what's... well, see, John Lasseter is like... He's great. I believe he's in charge of both like Pixar and Walt Disney Studios.
Yep,
like,
he is the head of Walt Disney Studios right now.
Which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, like... I mean, we know he's a great director. He's worked on so much stuff. Like, he's done like so many great films. He also... Recently, I believe his most recent effort was actually Cars 2. And the fact that he's doing Toy Story 4 kind of tells me that he knows how to like make... No, that doesn't mean it's going to be bad. I mean, Cars 2 I don't even think was really bad, but... The thing is, like, it didn't seem to have much effort. It was just like, we have to put this out here so we can get money and make other movies. And that just...
If that... Yeah, that would be terrible.
I don't want that to become Toy Story 4. I think, like, you gotta honor it. Like, I think they were doing a great job with these little shorts they were putting in here every now and then.
It is the most successful Pixar franchise. How could you not honor it?
Well, I mean...
I believe John Lasseter also directed the first one. So
I don't know. I should look that up. But yeah.
Hopefully they get the guy who wrote the screenplay for Toy Story 3 to come back for 4.
Sure.
Because that guy's awesome. He got an Oscar for it.
Nice.
Personally, I think we should move on from Toy Story.
Yeah. I think to end this, I would like to quote Pros. We're doing a sequel. The studio wants more, while they wait for Tom Hanks to make Toy Story 4. Love Most Wanted, March 2014.
That joke makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, how does this segue into the top? Well, okay, it's pretty obvious how this segues into the topic.
Yeah. But I think it's also good to point out just another certain franchise that kind of got a revival like just today, I think. It was the Bourne franchise.
Yes.
Matt Damon will be returning to the Jason Bourne franchise.
Yep.
What do you guys think? Because I have literally no opinion on this. I do not care for the franchise.
Well, I'm a big fan of the Bourne Identity and Bourne Ultimatum. I've only seen Supremacy once, so I enjoyed it, but I can't say whether or not I'm a huge fan. I haven't seen it enough. And I'm actually one of the few people that did enjoy Bourne Legacy. A lot of people don't like it, and I can kind of see why. It would have been much better if it wasn't a Bourne movie. It had a good idea on its own. That was just, they really struggled to fit in that Bourne world, so that part didn't quite work. But on its own, I think it's a decent enough action movie. But I'm so glad Matt Damon's back. I mean,
seriously, Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Renner's good. I like Jeremy Renner.
You can give him credit, but it's just the Bourne Legacy just overall was a much weaker film. In comparison to the first 3. I've seen all 3 of the Bourne films. I personally consider it probably one of the most interesting trilogies I've ever seen. Sure. I don't know if it's one of the best, but I do find the films very engaging. And so Matt Damon knows the role. He can probably do it in his sleep. I'm thinking that perhaps they might allow Matt Damon to kind of go through the timeline of the Bourne Legacy. See if that can... I mean, that's really... I mean, where else would they go? They've already established that. It's not like they're just going to drop it and move on.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Bourne Ultimatum has a great ending where, he brings down the organization, but then escapes. He ends up escaping, disappearing. So I don't know where they're going to go with it, but I'm very excited that he's back. And Paul Greengrass, who I think is a very good director. I just want to introduce him to the tripod, because he just shakes everywhere. Captain Phillips made me seasick. No pun intended.
That's a common thing with Sean.
Yep. All Greengrass. Anyway, good director.
Yeah, so with these two announcements in mind, I think it's just good to talk about when is it okay to say goodbye, you know?
Yeah.
So long, partner, as it were.
Apparently, it's not okay anymore.
I don't think it's not okay. It's just I believe it's the more noble thing to say goodbye to a franchise, because with Toy Story 4, I understand why it's happening. I understand it. It's a marketing move that will work no matter what anybody else will say. But it's just not the more noble thing to do, which would be just to move on to other franchise.
Right.
It's weird because I always thought that Pixar was like, it wasn't the franchise that kept people coming back. It was the studio itself, much like how Marvel Studios has attained that title today. I thought Pixar was like, it's a Pixar movie? Well, I'm going to go see it then.
Yeah, but maybe not. Maybe that isn't as reliable as we assume. And that's kind of the thing with when you say goodbye to a franchise, is that the studios never want to, unless they dip down in popularity. So, just to clarify, we're talking about, like, artistically, kind of that sort of angle, like, from the audience perspective, when should they stop, or when should they have stopped? Like, I want to talk about examples where, you know, in this franchise, they should have stopped here. You know, stuff like that. So that's just to clarify. I just wanted to bring that up because we're not talking business. Because obviously, if it makes money, you shouldn't stop from the business side.
Yeah. All right. So here's what I was thinking. So this also reminds me of a time when for the last year, like a year and a half, however long since Iron Man 3 came out, I've always been no Iron Man 4.
Right.
And I started to think, I mean, not only, you know, contextually in the Iron Man series, whatever, but like Iron Man 4, just the concept itself of a fourth Iron Man movie did not seem like a good idea to me.
No,
and then I remembered something that I was taught when I took a comedy course class thing. People love things in three. It's called the rule of three. Same reason as the rule of thirds. The rule of three is basically this. You tell a joke once, you tell a joke twice, and then you tell it a third time, and usually you put a little spin on it and it makes people laugh. If you watch any stand-up comedian ever, they will do this.
Yeah.
I think this applies to movies too. People like trilogies. People like having things in trilogies because it just feels right. It just feels like the right amount. If somebody told a joke to you like 4 times, it would just feel like too much. And if it was 2 times, it wouldn't feel like it was enough. So 3 is just it's the magic number.
So I mean, I can see that, but of course I can see that I don't want to put numbers on this. I don't buy the whole 3 thing because there are a lot of series that I'm glad went beyond 3.
No. I mean, no. The initial reaction is bad, but like it can totally continue if you want it to.
Yeah.
Just the initial reaction is just like, because people like things in threes. I think it's just a part of our psychology.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I'm fine with it. I agree. Like 3 is nice. I guess. Well, I don't know what's the format we're going for, because I was just going to bring up some franchises that talk.
Well, yeah. I mean, like we were just like I was just thinking like we just do some theories. Just cut this part out, but yeah.
I don't know. I think you're right. Well, obviously you're right. I mean, 3's good. I just think sometimes 3 looks so nice, but then 3 happens, and everyone's like, "Oh man, that was awesome that franchise got 3. Let's make another one." You know, like I mean, like you see that everyone likes the 3 movies, and if they consistently stay popular, it's like, well, people still want movies. I mean, I think that Toy Story was a very bad example to be criticized. It's a good example to be criticizing because Toy Story really wrapped it up very nice. That's the main reason why everyone's getting so annoyed, because Toy Story 3 had a very conclusive ending, unlike other movies.
Right. So I mean, we can let's talk about what franchise I want to bring up.
The thing is, the main argument I've seen. I'll get to this real quick. The main thing I've seen that from the other side, people who are like okay with this, is that they I've heard this like argument like literally 4 times in the same sentence. It's like, well, I didn't think 3 was a good idea, but then it turned out to be good, so maybe this one won't be too bad either. So I mean, and I always thought that 3 was like a good, maybe initially, I don't know, but like when it came out, it really did solidify this idea of a trilogy, of like the final word on the toys, because thematically these movies, they share a lot of similarities.
Yeah, actually,
so, I mean,
the progression between 1, 2, and 3 is thematically brilliant.
Well, actually, I would argue that 3 feels a bit repetitive to 2, and especially in terms of just like the villain and its motives, which kind of drives a lot of the plot. So I don't think it's totally,
But anyway, these aren't the only 2 examples of this happening. This has happened in movies again and again and again. So, Sean, do you have any examples that you'd like to share?
The first one I want to bring up of like exceptions to, you should. Okay, a lot. I want to bring up a franchise that, for me, this is incredibly personal. I don't mean personal like emotional. I mean it's a personally, it's a completely subjective, incredibly biased thing. But Transformers, right?
Transformers.
People actually received the first movie decently well.
Right.
And people seem to forget that. Like, now, Transformers is just the whipping boy of literally anyone that can type on the internet.
Yeah,
right?
literally.
And I hate that. I mean,
well,
they're not good movies, but...
2 specifically is the whipping boy.
Well, yeah, 2 specifically. And so as soon as they're like, hey, let's do another Transformers movie, because people actually like the first one. So you obviously make a second, because it was financially successful, and the audience seemed to get behind it. So obviously they're going to make a sequel. And then it was just complete garbage. I don't know how else to argue it. The sequel was just absolute garbage.
Oh, yeah.
And so everyone was saying, all right, it was a one-time thing. Stop. Right now. Just stop it. Stop this franchise. Now, on my personal level, I'm glad they didn't. Dark of the Moon, I greatly enjoy. And
because
then Age
it's
of Extinction,
so bad.
Well, yeah, and Age of Extinction is one of my favorite movies of the year. Not in terms of quality, but in terms of just how much I enjoyed myself. Again, this is an incredibly subjective, biased, whatever you want to call it, thing. Now, on a less, I don't know, a less kind of condescending note, like, oh, I love how bad it is. Well, actually, first, do you guys have anything on Transformers?
No, I can think of at the moment. I will think
it's Transformers. I think you have to make a very good point about how everyone forgets that 1 is actually decent.
Yeah.
I rewatched 1 very recently. 1 is actually, I actually realized I kind of liked it a little bit more than when I first saw it, and I'm like, how does that happen? It was so confusing.
Another series I want to bring up is Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, yeah.
Because I like the whole series, don't get me wrong. I think 2 is the low point. And
I think 3.
It's one of those things where 4 got such a bad rap, but from my point of view, I'm glad they didn't stop at 3, because I think On Stranger Tides is a tiny bit better than 3, and it felt like more of a return to form. 2 and 3 just got so big. They got so grand, trying to be epic. And this kept it pretty straightforward in terms of, I don't know, it's not about this sea goddess turning into what it was.
Yeah.
3 was weird. 3 was weird.
And they're making 5. Dead Man
they
Tell
are.
No Tales.
Dead Man Tell No Tales. And so that's an example of a franchise where they clearly had more ideas. Now, I'm one of those people that very much like things like in place. I love it when things just like fit in, match perfectly. I don't know how to describe it. It's just when things just fit into place, it's great, and I feel so unsatisfied if they don't. So, like, the trilogy thing always works pretty much, like how it builds and then ends, like, perfect. So 4 just always feel tacked on. But sometimes it's okay to kind of, in a way, serialize it. Or you did your trilogy, now just do your little standalone movies. I don't know if Dead Man Tell No Tales will have much to do with On Stranger Tides or the trilogy.
That's a good point.
And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to make it just an ongoing series of films, not necessarily linked that strongly, just here's an adventure of these characters, here's another. Yeah. I think that's okay.
I don't think we've
Indiana
ever
Jones
really
did that.
I don't think we've ever really. Well, okay, that's true, but
Indiana Jones
that
definitely
started
did that.
right from the beginning.
And really quick, in a different medium, Uncharted does the same thing.
Yes.
Those 3 games are not all that connected, but they are just adventures with the main character.
Exactly, and we're getting Uncharted.
It's not so
4.
much the thematic foundation that connects the movies. Or the games, the movies, or whatever. It's just the characters and the plot, kind of surface level stuff.
Yeah, but again, there aren't many examples in which that starts from the very beginning in film as a medium. In video games, sure. In TV movies, like, I don't know, special movie events based off of television shows, also maybe. But I don't see many examples in which a film creates a franchise and then they just start making sequels that are not even connected in the slightest bit.
Well, no, they could be connected through, like...
through characters and obviously,
sure.
but not through plot, though.
Well, yeah, let me give me a second thing with, like, some examples.
Except for maybe Disney. A few Disney properties, but all the sequels go to, like, straight to DVD, so it's hard to really count those, honestly, in my opinion, because we're dealing with 2 different markets. So it's I personally don't think that really works if you're trying to compete, in the franchise age market. Unless like for some reason you get some incredibly successful franchise that just can't go anywhere, but you still need to make movies. But that doesn't usually happen, because now that the franchise age is happening, most directors or producers will be like, okay, by the way, at the end of your movie, let's add this one thing that leads it open. Like at the end of Pirates 2, when Barbossa is revealed to be alive, it's
that
like,
cool,
we're making 3, and I love that idea. But
2 and 3 were filmed at the same time, so
that's true.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I think
seriously?
that 3...
Yeah, it was the most expensive film project of all time until just like last week or something. They released the Hobbit numbers, and that trilogy was more expensive.
Yeah. As far as Pirates go, I personally think 3 is the lowest point. I think 3 just takes all the convolutedness, which wasn't really that crazy, in 2, and makes it I can't handle it. It's just too many characters, too many plot lines.
I think 2 really just did not understand the tone of the first Pirates movie.
That's also very true.
3 got a bit closer, and 3 has a lot of great moments in it, just singular moments that I think make it worth watching. But anyway, I don't want to talk about specific Pirates. That's just an example of it's good that they continued, even though people were very skeptical. Hey, you wrapped up your story. That was a pretty decent ending with that World's End. Or the people were saying it's not good, don't do 4, it'd be even worse. And I would argue I'm glad they continued. Now, does anyone have an example of a series that should have ended?
Shrek. Shrek. Jesus, I cannot
I got like
that.
a third of the way through Shrek the Third. It was just so dull.
And I do not hate Shrek the Third. I actually think it's fine as a movie. But like what happened was you took this one movie, this Shrek, right? Very popular, very conclusive. It took the idea that, fairy tales don't have to always be what they have to be, and they worked well with that. And then eventually, obviously, a sequel happened. And that
Which I think is better. I think Shrek 2 is better.
I would personally argue that Shrek 1 is better. I mean, just on a different level.
Shrek's entire foundation was based on the fact that it was a parody of all the extremely marketable and extremely corporatized fairy tales that were coming out at the time, and then it became exactly what it had parodied in the first place.
Who's the real monster? That sort of thing.
So then you have 2, which admittedly did add an interesting idea onto the table. In fact, several interesting ideas, really, in retrospect. But then that also ended pretty conclusively.
Yeah.
And then you got 3, which was obviously the rule of the trilogy rule. And I'm like, okay, fine. Yes, the rule of thirds. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. And I watch, Shrek the Third. Also, I don't understand why they named it Shrek the Third. Shrek 2, Shrek the Third. That's so weird. And then, fine, I was done with Shrek. They made Puss in Boots. That was a spinoff. I was okay with that because he has his own universe. And then the 4th one happened.
Where are my witches at?
And I'm like, what? It's like it pretty much recycled everything that 2 was about. Or, no, not 2, 3 was about. It was about, I'm tired of my life as royalty. I hate it. And granted, Rumpelstiltskin was an interesting idea, even though we actually saw him in the 3rd movie, didn't we?
I don't know. Again, I didn't make it through that movie.
I watched it back in 2007. I do not remember a thing about it.
There's this one really stupid joke. It's like, hey, you, Rumpelstiltskin, and he points his head up. So I guess it was an interesting idea, but it just felt so unnecessary. And the idea that they brought to the table of Shrek, oh no one knows who Shrek is anymore. Now he has to rekindle all of his friendships and his romance with his wife and things like that. We've seen it done before.
We just saw a trilogy of that. Man, if that's the plot, that feels so...
You've never seen 4, have you?
No. Well, if I didn't get through 3...
Okay, so essentially what happens is Rumpelstiltskin talks to Shrek, and he says, I'll give you your old life back in exchange for 1 day of your life, and he ends up taking the day he was born. So now Shrek was... I know, it's really stupid.
Shrek was never...
Shrek was never born, and Rumpelstiltskin's king now, and he has to rekindle all of his friendships, and there's a whole ogre battalion now. It's really weird. So that is
desperate.
and then apparently there are rumors 5 is happening. I'm like, are you kidding me?
It was even called, what was it called? Shrek
Forever
Chapter?
After. Shrek Forever After. It was originally the final chapter. Then it was Shrek Forever After. Again, Shrek 1, Shrek 2, Shrek 3, Shrek 4. It's not hard, guys. We don't have to keep mixing and matching how we name our sequels. It's either go with subtitles or go with numbers. It's not hard.
Yeah, it's called, I'm looking at the poster right now. It's Shrek, the Final Chapter 3D.
Oh, that's what it is? I thought it was Forever After.
That's the IMDb page, but the poster says The Final Chapter.
Oh, it's just, that was like a perfect. That's like my quintessential example of a film franchise that just did not need to do anything more than really its first movie. And Shrek came out at a time when franchise age, psh, what's that? The point I'm trying to make is Shrek as a one movie would have been perfectly fine. Like, perfectly fine. You know, you see the ideas that DreamWorks came out with later. You know, it's kind of understandable why they had to go back to Shrek, because Shark Tale bombed.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I don't even... Yeah, I think the movie's fine. In fact, I think there are some comedic moments in it, but it bombed, and everyone hated it. So, of course, they had to go back to their roots, but it's just so frustrating, especially as someone who really did enjoy Shrek 1 a lot. Like, I quote it very often. So, that's just
sad. What?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Oh, what? Hey, there are some very quotable lines in that film.
It's Brimstone. You sure it's not you? Donkey. If it was me,
if it were me,
you'd be dead.
See, I love that line. I quote that line.
It's kind of overrated.
Ogres have layers. Cakes have layers.
Okay,
so, I mean, if we want to turn it into, let's quote Shrek, the podcast.
Okay. I have an example I'd like to share.
All right.
I think this franchise has been along far too long, but... okay, I'm going to start this fire. X-Men. X-Men's been around for way too long. It should have been done a long time ago.
See, I would agree. And then Days of Future Past happened.
Yeah, exactly.
See, look, First Class was really good, okay? But it didn't convince me that we needed X-Men to stick around, especially because, I mean, okay, Fantastic Four, I do not care about at all, but then it's X-Men in terms of, like, superhero stuff that I care about. I mean, they're fine, don't get me wrong, but, okay, no, Spider-Man, I care less about Spider-Man. I'm so done with Spider-Man.
Oh
anyway.
My God, are you kidding me? The world is done.
Yeah, apparently.
Well, actually, Fantastic Four, though, it's interesting you bring that up, because that movie only has two. The second one bombed so hard that they couldn't make a third one, and yet nobody complained about it.
No one complained. So my response, Days of Future Past it's a good example of sometimes if the stars align. Now you disagree, Max, but in my opinion, if the stars align, you can kind of fix everything. So yeah, I was
go back in time and you can fix everything.
They literally fixed the franchise. Like they went back, fixed the thing in time, and it reset it all. And so it kind of made me excited about it again. Like I'm pretty excited for X-Men Apocalypse.
I'm incredibly excited for X-Men Apocalypse. I mean, I am so ready to go back to the older cast of X-Men.
Yeah, I mean I think that was an example of sometimes you shouldn't give up.
Yeah.
It's a good example. Thank you for bringing it up. Now, what are you going to say about it that I disagree with?
Well, I mean, in my personal opinion, this franchise seems to be jogging in place and always has been, especially in regards to how Days of Future Past felt like it could have literally been made 10 years ago, 12 or 13 years ago, and nobody would have complained. And nobody would have seen the difference. Not even, fine, maybe in effects, but everything else, like, it felt so 2000, 2001 superhero flick. And I
disagree. Have you seen the X-Men movies recently? Like the first three, the trilogy?
Not recently, but I've watched it.
I saw a part of the end of the first X-Men movie, and we've progressed a ways. I think Days of Future Past it feels much more current than that. And that's another thing that as franchises go on, it gives the opportunity to kind of update, to kind of feel new again.
That's true. I can see that. I think X-Men... I'm not so big on X-Men, the 1 through 3. First Class is awesome, and Days of Future Past is awesomer. But, I agree with what you said, John. It's just, I know, Max, the first three movies are very jog in place, despite the fact that 3 tried to throw this huge plot at us.
3 was not that great.
I never saw 3 was that great. I liked 1 and 2.
Okay, well, 3 threw this huge plot at us that kind of started in 2, but 3 was just this huge explosion, and then it ended up just setting itself right where it started. So you kind of have these 3 movies that just happened, didn't really expand on anything, and then First Class happened, and originally I thought, oh, this is just some other director trying it out and seeing what he could do, but it was the same guy. Bryan Singer came for that film, and...
No.
It showed that he...
No, it was Matthew Vaughn.
Oh, it was? Did he help with it?
No, not really.
No?
Really,
well, that's surprising. Anyway. Well, okay, then that happened. But then, didn't Singer do Days of Future Past?
Yes.
Okay, so, I revised my opinion. First Class was a film where some other guy tried to do something, and it worked. And then Singer said, holy crap, I could keep doing it. And so he did. And then he revitalized the entire franchise, and now we're back at... I know I just made a point about how bad it was that we started from square one, but now it's good that we started from square one, because 1 through 3 just happened, and, I'm ready to start over with that cast, though, of characters.
So, yeah, it's kind of a reset.
Yes.
But even so, I think, I don't have more examples. I think we should kind of... I don't know. I don't want to keep going through examples. I
have one more example.
All right.
I have one more. Star Wars.
Okay.
I think I'm not saying it's gone on far enough, but it does seem to me that we're having a third trilogy.
Yep.
Entirely third trilogy. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. In fact, I'm really looking forward to them. But it does seem kind of weird that, Disney would revitalize this franchise.
No. Star Wars is one of the most criminally undertapped, IPs in all of cinema.
What?
6 movies is not enough. Let's look at how many video games, books, comic book, all that came from the universe. There's so much more to do here.
It was tapped, though, multiple times.
Yeah, 6 isn't enough.
Well, 6 major movies
yes,
might not be enough,
that's what
but
I'm saying.
Clone Wars, video games, books, even though they just wiped out the entire universe of the books. And obviously, the franchise has been tapped. I am not surprised even a little bit that more Star Wars movies are happening.
I'm glad.
I felt it was sort of inevitable. I think it was inevitable.
Think it's done. Yeah.
Sort of in the way that Indiana Jones 4 was kind of inevitable. Even though it sucked.
That's one. Okay, there's an example of franchise should have just ended.
Oh, yeah. But I always thought that, 4 wasn't an idea? Because everyone loves the 3. Everyone loves the 3.
No.
Even if
2 is not that popular.
No. Oh, really? I don't know. All my friends like 2. I know so many people that like all 3 of them. But anyway, I don't know. I'm Star Wars is fine. I don't think I think it's pure enough that we don't have to assume that Disney is simply doing it for the matter of money.
Right.
I think there is also a matter of, this is a pretty great universe. Why should we just let it be stale? Let's revitalize it. But now, can we start going into some bigger pictures here overall about when you end franchises? I assume that's where you were going,
sure.
Sean.
I just thought that was perhaps, I don't know. I don't know. But
it is. No, that was good. I'm glad you brought up Star Wars. For me, it's the natural progression of the franchise age. It feels of course Star Wars is going to come back. It was the original franchise. It was the original mind-blowingly big, everyone talks about series of movies.
And speaking of the franchise age, here's my thought. If we're going to keep getting movies that are just the more installments we get, is that what's going to ultimately doom this phase? Not, to use a relative word.
Yeah, I've always said that. That's my theory of how the franchise age is going to end. There's just going to be too many. Already, we have Interstellar and Big Hero 6 opening on the same day. Those are big releases and stuff. And then immediately after is Mockingjay. Those 2 big movies only have 2 dates, and then they run into a franchise. And that doesn't have too long till Hobbit comes in. The franchises are getting a little crammed. And the thing about franchises is that they're very expensive. Usually, franchise movies are rarely not blockbusters.
Yeah.
And so, eventually, people are just not going to want to go out to Age of Ultron, and then, 2.5 months later is Ant-Man?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if Ant-Man is going to do that great.
The problem with that theory is that you look at the box office, and you see that both Big Hero 6 and Interstellar made around the same amount.
Those aren't franchise films.
I know, but let's say
I'm just quoting the example of how those big releases don't have much time, and franchises are going to start conflicting. We already had almost a dead matchup between Batman vs. Superman and Captain 3, which we now is Civil War, which, by the way, would have been so funny if they were the same day. That would be amazing, because they're the same
Iron Man
movie.
v Captain America, War of Civil.
Yeah, exactly. Dawn of Civil. So,
Dawn of Civil.
we almost had on the same day 2 giant franchises. That's what's going to end the franchise age. Transformers can't compete with Divergent series or I'm totally blank.
The day
on
we
franchises.
get Hunger Games and Transformers on the same day is when we start getting a problem. Is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
it's already no. A week apart is going to kill one of them. So, Spider-Man had already affected Spider-Man.
Oh, that's true.
It's already started to happen. Spider-Man, they had this huge plan with Spider-Man 2 coming out, and then they dropped it because
did they?
Altered. Yeah, there's major shakeups going on at Sony about what to do. Sinister Six movie is still in the works, I think, but everything else has kind of been subdued, especially with Fantastic Four trying to break a way in, which I don't think it will. Unfortunately, just don't think it really has a chance.
Know where that's
it's going to be DC versus Marvel. It's always been DC versus Marvel. It's going to happen in the movies as well. Marvel Studios versus DC movies. So they're trying to break in, and that's going to happen with all franchises. They're going to say, "Let's make this a franchise." It's not going to work.
I think it's going to take something big to really like to seriously close the book on this age, and I think it's going to come. I mean, because we just love talking about superhero news.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a Marvel movie. Who knows? Infinity War might just be might be the limit. Might be the breaking point. The end of Phase 3 might be the end of the franchise age. And then what?
Wow. Yeah.
You know,
I couldn't imagine.
Of course, I don't want to do any sort of doomsday foreshadowing, but I think it's just important to remember that, like, even though it makes more sense business-wise to make money through properties that people are already familiar with, I think it's the more noble idea would just be do what you please. Like,
yeah, but hey, if you have a good idea, I'm totally open to more franchise stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
God,
that's why Marvel is so great, because they're putting so many more ideas.
You can do it if you do it well. Did this just turn into another one of those?
I don't think so. I think it's do it ethically. Like, think about
ethics is really a moot point, but
actually, it's about ethics in the franchise age. But it's about ethics in the franchise age.
Oh boy. Gamergate, you're the laughing stock of the internet.
Yeah, really. Yeah. But I think to wrap this up, I'm not, maybe ethically is the bad idea. Just like, I think it's best that we pace ourselves. We don't need to have we don't need to have a new installment of the franchise every now and then. We can have new franchises. Big Hero 6, obviously is trying to start a franchise. Like,
wait, seriously?
Oh, absolutely.
I never got that vibe, but I haven't seen it yet.
I mean, I'm not going to say what happened to the movie, but you can most certainly tell they're trying to kickstart a franchise. And
considering they just beat Interstellar, I think they obviously see the potential.
When you say beat, you mean that totally different markets went to the movie more?
Yeah.
I know, I'm just saying. You can talk about the different markets and all, but I'm just saying it
was only
get more money.
$5 million?
But okay,
still made more money. I'm just saying.
The point is, and then we did see two very different movies come out. One that's trying to kickstart a franchise, and one that is a directorial piece, an auteur piece from the Nolan brothers. Sure. Like we see these two different things, and then we see the movie that's clearly trying to start a franchise, and it's aimed at a bigger demographic. I know. To quote, I think what the Hollywood Reporter said, eclipsing Interstellar. Like, I mean. Not to rag on Interstellar, regardless of my thoughts on it, but it does. I just lost my thought. But my main point is, just don't give in to money. Don't do it. Money is bad, but it's good, and if you just
my closing thoughts are pretty much just. Franchises can be wonderful. It's great to see characters have potential to tell more stories, go with it, or like the writers want to continue in this world even without the characters, but they have ideas. Great. I hate the anti-franchise mindset that a lot of people have taken just because there's so many franchises.
Oh, absolutely. That's stupid.
Divergent, it upsets me a bit, and it's already getting a sequel in a 2-part, 3-part. Because
really?
Of course.
Oh,
but
God.
that doesn't mean all franchises are bad. I hate the anti-franchiseness going around.
Hashtag not all franchises.
Hashtag not all franchises. There. That's my closing thought. Hashtag not all
Jesus
franchises.
Christ. Oh, no.
But yeah, make sure you're not just doing it because that's the thing. Actually, this is an argument to the business side of the franchise age. I think this is a good ending argument. Yeah, you can say don't do it just for the money because that's artistically or ethically and be happy. No, business-wise, don't do it just because if you just flood the market with these franchises and these sequels, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah,
and not be able to do franchise.
Yeah.
We're already talking about the end of the franchise age because there's so many franchises. Yeah. That's the only reason that they're dying. So if you want to just push your Percy Jackson franchise down people's throat, you're only contributing to your other franchises that are good. eventually having to be canceled because you're going to kill the franchise faster.
Yeah, there's a principle in economics called the law of diminishing returns, and that's basically what's happening. You do the same thing. Less people are just going to show up. That's just how economics work. So
Fox, you've got X-Men. Don't do Fantastic Four. You're flooding the superhero market and the franchise market, but specifically the superhero market. We don't overflood with superheroes. Eventually, it's all just going to collapse.
Yeah,
same goes with just franchise in general. So that's my appeal to the business side. If you want to stretch it out, keep the money coming in, calm down.
Yeah, really.
The funny thing is that we saw this happen when with Divergent coming out, and then Vampire Academy that came out, and then all these movies came out. We became saturated with the young adult dystopian novel, and The Giver also. We saw those movies start coming in start flooding the market, and then most of them sucked. Yeah, a lot of them sucked. And now superhero movies are pretty much all the rage now. So really, the question is, when are we going to start seeing so many superhero movies coming out so rapidly, so closely together, that everyone's just going to get sick of it?
You know what?
Yeah.
Okay, quickly, right before we wrap this up, I have a theory as to how this franchise age is going to end. When we start seeing young adult adaptations, comic book movies, whatever, have their first movie be a two-parter. That's going to be the sign that this has to end. Because that's not right. Like, I don't want to say that's not right, because it's totally right, it's totally fair, it's totally, like, you can do it. It's not cool, man. It's not cool.
It's way too it's kind of pompous in a way.
Yeah, it is.
Our story is so important. We have to make 2 movies.
Yeah. Black Panther Part 1 and Part 2. That's just...
Oh, God, no. Yeah. Just no.
Anyway, okay. So, I think we've all gotten this out. This is an issue that I think we're going to see more and more often as the years progress, especially in this decade, in regards to the franchise age and just how these franchises should be like structured out. Is it a psychology thing? Is it a business thing? Is it a creative thing? I'm not sure. But
I'm just curious to see what the next biggest fad is going to be.
But
something a little smaller than like franchises. Like we had young adult novels, now superhero movies.
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
Here's a question to you, listener. How long are you going to put up with, if they're good, then I guess it's fine, before you start saying, okay, this needs to end no matter how good it gets? Just that's a question for you.
But however, the response being, is it okay to put up with franchise fatigue if the individual movies make it worth it? Like, I mean, Max, I agree with you. I didn't care much about X-Men, but I'm glad it stuck around. I'm glad I suffered through X-Men Origins Wolverine and X-Men 3 because I got First Class partially, but mostly Days of Future Past. So sometimes you have to keep in mind, before you answer that question, which is a very legitimate question, you have to realize that sometimes it is worth it. That's what I just want to bring up. Sometimes it's worth it. Stick it out.
Sometimes.
But not always. Not always.
Anyway, guys, that's our podcast. Thank you so much for joining and listening all the way to the end. And you can be assured that the Rule of Thirds franchise is not coming to an end anytime soon. Am I right, guys? Am I right?
Yeah, I get an amen, brother? I don't know.
We should actually mention that. We should mention...
Can I? Because I push for it.
Yeah, fine, sure. Go for it. We have a special announcement for y'all who stayed to the end of the podcast.
Yeah, hooray. Rule of Thirds is coming back partially pretty soon. Basically, all we're doing is we're going to do the podcast and video reviews. We feel like that was just that's the core. That's always been the core of what we do, so moving forward, that's what we're going to do. So the first video review is next week. We'll work out when it is Interstellar, which we already mentioned, which I'm very interested to see everyone's opinion on. So yeah, stay tuned for that, but we are coming back. And also, I will be continuing preview on my own.
Anyway, guys, until next time, my name is Max.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Larry.
Thanks for listening, guys. Hear us later.
Bye-bye.
Well, again, the wave didn't work, so I always do it. I wave, you can't hear it.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.